Hi everyone, my name's Enzo Maisano and I'm the director of Tell the Story. And I get to do some really amazing things with video and photography all over the world. My job here in Australia is to do lots of different videos, everything from real estate videos and property profiles, suburb profiles, agent profiles, through to finance companies, banks, anybody that needs a video, I'm your man, and I tend to shoot on my own and get help as I need it. I've amassed quite a bit of gear in the last couple of years and I love shooting video and telling stories. But there's a purpose to why I do what I do, and that is because I want to put aside money so that the resources that I make can be used to help me travel around the world and tell the story of people that are less fortunate than us and connect some good stories of people that really need help and connect them to people here with resources. And so I get to travel 2, 3, 4 times a year through my role really as a pastor. I've been a pastor for the last 30 or so years, but in the last couple of years I've reinvented myself, started this company that enables me to now go and actually film some amazing stories. I've traveled to Malawi, which is an amazing country and some beautiful, beautiful people. And while I was there, was able to help train some leaders and use my experience in leadership to do that, but also tell their stories so that some of these guys that are out there in the field can get some support. Also, Mozambique was an incredible experience and some beautiful, beautiful places and some really challenging ones as well. Going into some of the villages and seeing the transformation that's taking place really kind of turns my lights on. Vietnam was a big experience, going into places like Ho Chi Minh City and traveling among the millions of motorbikes that crowd the streets there was fantastic. Also, Sri Lanka, I went to do some training of leaders there, and then I worked for a tea company based here in Australia and did some corporate video for them. And traveling through those tea fields was spectacular. And I've been to India a couple of times too and seen the work of Joan, who runs an organisation called Jacob's Well, and they put freshwater bores into villages that really are neglected and totally forgotten by the government. Every year in these villages, 8 to 10 people die from preventable diseases, and so she's put in 54 in the last few years. She's an Aussie ex-bank lady who's sold up everything and has gone over there, and I just loved that experience. And in a couple of months' time, I'm going back to Malawi and Mozambique to kind of do it all over again. And the interesting thing is that I want to talk to you about, you know, my thinking behind packing. I remember when I did my first kind of trip, I took everything. I'm a bit of a hoarder in real life, and so I want everything, and I don't want to leave anything behind just in case I need it. But I've become a little bit wiser, and in this next trip, I'm actually going to take minimal gear. Now, why would I do that? It's because when I traveled to India recently, and landed in a place called Visakhapatnam late at night in an airport that had been damaged by storms, by typhoons. Basically, they give you a hard time. I don't know if they're looking for bribes or they're looking, you know, to give you a hard time and kind of do all their red tape stuff. I kind of think it was about bribes, but they pick you out and they go, you've got camera gear, and why have you got camera gear? And, you know, thankfully the airport was so busy that they got sick of me, you know, and they pushed me on. But I hate that experience, and there's reasons why you don't take a lot of gear. One, it's very heavy to lug around. Two, it's very expensive and you don't want to lose or damage your stuff, and it can get stolen. You can be a real target. I remember being in Kenya and, you know, just having a backpack with a camera raised a lot of attention on the streets of Nairobi. So, you know, you want to travel as light as possible with gear that doesn't look like you're actually in the business and having a lot of money. And so this is my thinking about traveling to Africa in the coming weeks. Now, the first thing is you need a really good bag, or a couple of bags to take with you. I've got this as a new bag. I took this to India. It's the Pro Tactic from Low Pro. It's the bigger model. I think it's a 450. It's an all-weather bag, so you can, you know, put a cover on it if it's raining. It's perfect. And I love these little strips along the front where you can attach straps like this and keep your tripod and other bags with batteries and things like that all over the outside. But what I love most about this is that it's got this, you know, really nice sturdy top on it that has a little bit of an air pocket between this and your LCD on your camera. And these zippers are fantastic because they just work, they don't get stuck. And then you've got access to not just this camera, but along the side, one on this side and one on that side, depending on what you're doing. So you grab this bag and it's got everything you need in it. I also like this idea that you actually put it on its front rather than on its back, and then you put it on your back. If it's the other way around, you put this on your back after you've had it on the ground, your back gets really dirty. It's perfectly ventilated along the back. So let's have a look at some of the gear that I'm planning to take with me to Malawi and Mozambique. So again, lots of room there for filters and documents, and I'll take my MacBook Pro with me. That can go in there, although I've got a separate computer bag because you're allowed to have one of those on planes. So what have I got in here? I'm recording on 2 GH4s. One of those will come with me. And the two lenses that I would definitely take is the lens that's on that camera right now, and that's the 12 to 35 f2.8. It's all-purpose. It's the equivalent of a 24 to 72.8, although you don't get that shallow depth of field that you would out of a full frame, but it's fantastic, optically brilliant, an expensive lens, but it's a top performer, and if I only had one to do a job, that'd be it. My other GH4, this is a GH3, but my other GH4 would have this lens, a 7 to 14, which is the equivalent of 14 to 24 f4. It's not stabilized, but it's super sharp, and I would take that because sometimes you want to do like a time lapse, or, you know, get a really wide shot, or a really, you know, environmental type shot. That's a perfect lens for that. So far I've got the 12 to 35 and the 7 to 14 for the wider end of things. And then I would take this one with me. This is the 35 to 100, and you know, it's a terrific lens, and it's very much in keeping. It doesn't get longer as you zoom. Superb quality. Again, it's, you know, I think 2.8 on a micro four thirds camera looks like a 5.6 on a full frame. I don't think the mathematics are exactly like that, but that's what it looks like to me. So often that's not you know, not the depth of field I want. So I actually take some things with me to make up for that lack of depth of field. Number one is I take a Metabone speed booster, as you can see here on the Sigma 50mm 1.4 Art Series lens. Can't beat these lenses. I've got one there, and I've got a 35mm as well. And if they brought out a 70 to 200 with, you know, image stabilization, that'd be in the bag as well. But I'll take that lens. It's pretty heavy, but there's things I can do with this in an interview situation. This is equivalent to like about a 70mm f1.0. So for evening shots and low light, when that sun is, you know, doing its beautiful thing in Africa, in Malawi or Mozambique, I can't go past this lens to record in the night time. Now I take also this little 45mm 1.8 Olympus, and I do that because if you can see in this particular footage here, when you're doing an interview and you want to get that really compressed background, this is like a 90mm 1.8, and it's so light, so it's going to go in the bag whether I like it or not. So that's one camera and a few lenses. Now I am taking to Africa my D750. Now why am I taking this when I've got two GH4s? Well, there's going to be a bit of a debate about that. when you travel, you should be making lists and crossing things out, and making lists again and crossing things out. You don't want to leave something behind, but you don't want to take too much either. So at the moment, this camera should be going with me, and the reason it goes with me is because this 35mm 1.4 Sigma art lens is the most superb lens I have ever owned. And the great thing about it, on this camera, you've got the tilty screen. If I went into a village and only took one camera, I'd take this. You know, and maybe the GH4, but I'd take this because it just gives me that really creamy bokeh in the background, and then it gives you enough to actually capture, you know, a good background image. I wish it had an 8,000th of a second shutter speed. It doesn't, but that's why we take neutral density filters with us, and these are really important if you're shooting video and you need to get the right shutter speed. This little Tiffin bag has got a wide variety and some double up because you don't want to be swapping around in dusty conditions. So that's what I take. Now, if I have to narrow it down, it would be just the GH4 and a couple of lenses with the Metabones and one of the Nikon lenses. But that's about right for this trip. And what that means is that I've got a backup in case something happens to one of these cameras. This is a camera that always goes in my computer bag. I love shooting with this camera. It's just phenomenal. This is a Fuji X100S. I would love the T, but I've got the S. It's just a delight, photographer delight. F2 equivalent to 35mm lens, and you've got all the controls, shutter speed up here, aperture here, your compensation on the side. It's amazing in low light, and it shoots the skin tones, the colors in this are fantastic. It doesn't do video very well at all, but at a pinch, if you really needed it, it's okay. And again, you go into a village and you use a camera like this, like I did here in Malawi, and you can get some outstanding images, colors like you wouldn't, that really pop. And it's not a threatening camera. It's not a camera that someone looks at and goes, oh, you must, can I have some money? Or I'm going to steal that from you, or whatever. It just looks like it's an old film camera and no one's going to bother you. And that's what's great about it. Mine's been knocked around, got scratches everywhere. I know some guys actually tape up the silver bit so it even looks less showy, but you know what, that's fine for me, and I take that with me everywhere I go, and sometimes it gives me the most joy shooting. Always take heaps of batteries, lots of chargers and batteries, because at night is the only time that you get to charge where I go, and sometimes the power goes off, like it happened in India for nearly 2 days. And so I was lucky that I had enough batteries. We were traveling into villages, and my whole trip would have been without purpose if I had have gone into those places without a charged battery. So that's what I take. This bag is exceptional as well, because what you can do is you can attach your tripod here. I've got some really quite high quality sliders here at home that I use for real estate photography. My favorite being the iFootage slider. I've tried them all. I've got the Edelchrome, which is nice, it's compact, but for smoothness and for just, you know, getting the right movements, the iFootage is the best by far that I've ever had. But this is great. This is a cheap, you know, under $100 slider. And the great thing about this is that you can travel light and you can wreck it and nothing's going to happen to it. It goes on a little pocket that sits on the outside, so you can have your tripod here, your slider here, and a couple of bags with batteries and things on the outside of this bag, and you can go anywhere. And that's what I did in India. I traveled like that. But there's times when you don't want to take all that. So in my suitcase, I have a couple of other bags that are really, really handy. This is a think tank, and the name is a Hubba Hubba Hoini because it's a bum bag. It's great because you can put a camera on a sling and then put 2 or 3 lenses in here and maybe some filters on the outside and memory cards and so on. And that can be your shooting when you go to a market or something like that. No one's going to bother you. It sits really comfortably. You can, you know, attach all sorts of things on the outside. It's got great zippers on it. Very, very durable. I use this when I shoot here, real estate photography, and I want to change lenses. So I just keep this with me, and I just take the lenses I need around the rooms of a house as I film. All weather, you know, cover it up just in case it gets wet. And that's that bag. But if you need something a little bit more, The Tenba is a fantastic bag. This particular one is called the Tenba Messenger Camera Bag Medium. I got it in orange and I really don't know why. As much as I try not to draw attention to myself, I don't know why I got it in orange. I kind of like the feel of that. But it's got a handle up here. You've got access to your cameras in there. I can put a micro four thirds camera in there, 6 lenses plus the one on the camera, that's 7, plus, you know, probably one on each side, that's 9 lenses plus 1 camera, or put a camera body on the side and lenses. This takes so much, and then there's pockets everywhere, pocket for your phone. Really one of the best all-round bags. I wish they made this a little bit bigger as well. Same layout, but just a little bit bigger would be a great sort of intermediate bag. It's got the little strap there for your travel on your, you know, put this on your suitcase. So I could leave for the Africa, I could leave this low pro behind and just take this, and I reckon I'd fit all my gear in here. But I just like the access points on that bag. And here's another few things that I would take. Definitely would never travel anywhere without a GoPro, and I invested in one of these little stabilizing gimbals. Again, you can't go overseas without one of these. They're so handy, incredibly high quality footage. I was shooting with this. I used a monopod and taped it up with some gaffer tape there, and then used it on the back of a motorbike as we went through some of those back roads in India. This is really superb. This stabilizer, about $300 US, 300 and something, but you just put your GoPro in, switch it on, and away you go, and it's fantastic. That is the SwiftCam G3. Brilliant. Always take a monofiber tripod, although the tripod I have, I can actually take one of the legs off. Well, what use is that if you actually need the tripod and you need this? So, you know, this is also handy for other things as well, even mounting a microphone and getting someone to use it as a boom when you travel. That's a handy thing. Now for audio, ideally I want to take a Rode mic connected to a juice link on my camera. I'm using the Sennheiser, I think it's the G3X100 something. It is a great lapel system. I take that with me because I often do interview stuff, but I find that I get a much better sound quality out of something like this. So if my packing's going well, I'll take this because, you know, interviews with a microphone like this are much better. You get a much better audio from that. So that's the Rode. I have to take the Juice Link, and I take a stand like this Manfrotto one here, which is really lightweight. It's called the Nanopole stand, and it's the MS049A, and I can put a boom arm on this, and that becomes really, really handy for interviews. Another couple of tips before we wrap it up. This is gaffer tape. Now, I would not take a roll of gaffer tape with me, but put it around your monopod. Just put a heap of it around your monopod, every single leg on your tripod, and you've got it handy because you never know where you're going to use this. I remember being in Nairobi in Kenya, and our accelerator cable was broken, and we used gaffer tape to put it together and hold it together till we could get the car repaired. Very, very handy. And again, just put it around your stands. I actually put it on the handles of my suitcase and everywhere. Best thing that you can do. Well, that's about it. And what I'd like to do in upcoming episodes is talk to you about some of the gear specifically and why it works for me. Talk to you, answer any questions. If you've got any comments or questions, things you'd like me to review, happy to do that. Talk to me about real estate videos, corporate videos, whatever you want to do. And I'm based here in Melbourne, and hopefully we can get this all over the world and get some ideas from other travel photographers, because the whole thing about travel photography is you want to keep it light, you want to keep it easy, but you want high quality results. And that's why I mainly shoot micro four thirds, because you get great quality, you get all the things that you need for time lapsing, and you know, your raw files are fantastic, but the video quality is exceptional, and the audio. So Until next time, make sure you keep telling the story. This is Enzo signing off for now.